What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Chasin' It on the 33rd team. Trey Wingo here with Chase Daniel. Delighted to be joined this week by Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert. Justin, thanks for being with us today, man. How are you?
Hey, doing well. Thanks for having me, guys.
Let's go, man. It's been a while. I see the cut, and we were just talking off camera. I'm like, man, everyone's obsessed with your hair. And you said, I didn't even notice because I came up week 16 to sit in the quarterback room with you guys. And then the next week, it's chopped off. What made you do it this week? Or this year?
You had a big impact on me. So I saw you, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I need to cut my hair. So thanks for stopping by.
Listen, as someone a little older than you guys, just be glad that you still have it to cut, okay?
Yeah, I'm jealous, honestly.
That's the thing. That's the thing you need to worry about going forward when it comes to hair. All right, we got a lot of things besides your follicles that we want to talk about. So obviously the big news with the Chargers organization, change in GM, change in head coach. Jim Harbaugh is there. What was your reaction when you first heard that Jim was going to be the new head coach?
Yeah, fired up. He's done such a great job at the NFL level, college level. He's had success wherever he goes, and he's a competitor. He wants to win, and I'm really excited to play for him.
What were your first conversations with him? Have you talked to him yet? I'm sure you have. You guys are building out the offense, but when he got hired, I remember that day I texted you. I'm like, hey, guy, you got Harbaugh, and you're like, oh yeah, I think so. And you hadn't really talked to him a lot. Have you talked to him since, and what have those conversations been like?
Yeah, I'm just talking about the offense, his vision for what the team looks like, offense, defense. I know this is their busy time where they're dealing with the combine, putting in the offense, kind of getting together their entire staff. So, from the times that I have talked to him, he seems like a competitor. He just wants to win, and that's definitely a guy you want to play for.
Has he sort of flushed out any real ideas or changes that he wants to implement, or is it just sort of broad topics right now?
Yeah, I think right now it's kind of just broad topics. They've got so much going on with scouting, combine, putting together the entire offense, like I said. So, I'm sure that in the next couple of months, especially when OTAs start up, we'll get into the finer details. But just really excited to work with him. And, from the short conversations that we've had so far, have been really exciting.
And I do want to ask you, Justin, about Shane Day. Obviously was our quarterback coach in 2021 and 2022, was in Houston last year. He's back now this year. Talk a little bit about the impact that he's had on you as a player, because I know from experience just watching you guys work, and did you have an impact in bringing him back here to be the quarterback coach?
Shane Day's been one of my favorite coaches of all time. Just his understanding of the game, the way he treats that quarterback room, the way he gets us prepared. He's a true professional, and you can kind of talk to that as well, of how prepared he is each week and how much he understands about the game. And, he's an incredible person too. So to have a guy like that in your corner to fight for you, and to teach you and to help you grow, there's no one better than that.
Yeah. Obviously all this change comes because it was a disappointing season for the Chargers. So how would you, Justin, having gone through it and injuries on both hands at one point, how would you describe the 2023-2024 season?
I don't know if I could just put it into one word. I think that's kind of a tough question. And, I think there's a lot that goes into a year.
We're here for the tough questions, Justin. We're here for the very tough questions.
Oh, yeah, exactly. No, but it's one of those things that we have to be better. We have to learn from those mistakes. And sometimes you have to go through things like that to know better and to learn and to grow from that. And no one wants to experience a season like that. But I know that we're going to be better because of it. The guys in that locker room are going to be tighter together. We're going to be closer, and we know what we need to fix now. And so paired up with this new coaching staff, these guys that we bring in, I know that we'll be focused and dialed in for this year.
And everyone's talked about, at least that I've talked with within the Chargers organization and seen it firsthand with you, your maturation process as a leader, right? Like there's a lot of older guys on the team that honestly, we don't know what's going to happen with them. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen's, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, all these guys, right? And you're stepping in to a little bit of older yourself. So what has your process been like? Because I know I've seen it, but what has your process been like from a leadership standpoint and just being the more vocal leader that you have become?
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that you can always work on. You can keep building on that each year. And, I think I've done a good job of that, but I've got a lot of room for improvement. And so that's one of those things this offseason that we're going to take control of. And as soon as we get there at OTAs, We're going to have to do things a little bit differently. Whatever happened last year, it wasn't good enough, and we're going to have to evaluate, and we've been watching a lot of film so far. So picking up things fundamentally, in that locker room, out on the practice field, weight room, it's the little things that add up, and, I'm sure that we're going to attack those this year.
Speaking of taking control, obviously the Charger fan base has been through a lot of frustration. We've seen, so many times it feels like the Chargers are right there, and then something happens, 27-0, the game's against Kansas City. What can you say to the Charger fan base that will let them know that maybe this is the time with this coach and the team that we have now that it might be different going forward?
I think that's another tough question. I don't think there's one set of words that can, put people at ease, or I don't have comforting words of, hey, it's all going to be okay. The NFL is a tough game, and we're going to do everything we can. And the margin for error is so small in the NFL that we really have to attack those little things. And I think it starts there, and I think it starts in the OTAs, and when everyone shows up in the weight room, out on the field, practice field, any chance we have to become a better team. I think that's what we need to attack. And I know the guys that I've already talked to and mentioned that they're going to be coming back pretty soon. They're fired up and ready to get after it. And that's all you can ask for, their best effort, at all times. And I know that we've got the locker room to be able to handle that.
And listen, I don't want to dwell on this, but everybody sort of talks about it, this thing with the Chargers. How aware are you guys as a team? Do you hear all that? Do you hear the noise and the term chargering? Like, how does the team deal with that?
I have not. What? Yeah. Could you kind of
all right.
Yeah, Trey, explain what that means.
No. Okay, no. So Chase knows. I mean, the term charging is like, you almost get it done, and it sort of takes that step back instead of getting it over the hump, basically. And that's sort of after a couple of games, people say, well, the Chargers are going to charger, and like, how do you combat that going forward?
Kind of like I just said, it starts with those small things. I don't have comforting words or anything to say, hey, like, it's all going to be perfect, because it's the NFL. It's tough. Teams are going to lose, and teams are going to win. And, that's the facts about it. And so we have to do everything we can to minimize those errors, to take away from that small margin of error. So there's things that we can attack, small things that, showing up on time, just little things like that add up.
Yeah. And I think, Trey, with that, with your respect to that, like within the locker room, like guys don't care about that shit. Like they really don't. It's just like
I was just aware if they were aware. People. That's all.
Yeah, no, and I think that's what, honestly, like, I know from my time in LA, like those guys in that locker room, like it's one of the best locker rooms I've been around. Like all the guys within the locker room, the leadership standpoint, and I think that's what you're seeing them trying to do right now, right? With Harbaugh and everyone else, like trying to get that next step. They got the quarterback, they got the pieces put in place for it. And so I'm excited to see what you guys are going to do. But like recently, Justin, KEENAN called you one of the most talented players he's ever played with. Where would you put KEENAN among the NFL's best receivers? And what do you think KEENAN does so well that he's like fine wine, man. He just gets better with age. It really is. Like I see him practice and I'm just like, how is he doing the things in practice? But he continues to do it in the game.
Yeah, he's a true professional. He takes great care of his body, and to be able to do it for, 8+ years is really impressive. And, he hasn't dropped off at all. And to have a guy like that who's so friendly to the quarterback, that understands, defensive leverage, how to attack it, where to get open. He really understands those soft spots, just sitting down in zone. And to have a guy like that, it makes my job so much easier. He's definitely one of the most underrated receivers that I've ever been played with. I think he's a top guy. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. And, it's a true honor to play next to him.
And just a great route runner. I mean, he knows the intricacies of where to be on the field at all times. All right, let's do some of the fun stuff now. Obviously, you guys were teammates for a little while. What were your first impressions of Chase Daniel the first time you met him?
Oh my gosh! Tell the truth too. Don't be because who knows what happens.
No, I knew that there's a reason that he stuck around in the NFL so long. He's an incredible teammate, incredible person. He's smart, and he can throw the ball too. So to have a guy like that, it's no surprise that he's, how many years was it? 13?
14, yeah, 14.
14.
Last two were you too, yeah.
I don't want to cut you a year short, but it doesn't. It's not by luck. So I think I knew immediately this is a guy that you respect. His teammates, especially in the Chargers, respected him as well. So he was a huge addition to the team.
Yeah, and for me, for Justin, like I just remember like you had just come off winning Rookie of the Year. And when I had signed there, we had chatted, we played golf a few times, but like I always remember you just like your demeanor, right? Like it's always wanting to get better. Like you're just so freaking nice, but also like driven to a point, be like where you would just pepper me with questions, but in a way that was just like, in my mind, I'm thinking like, this guy just won Rookie of the Year. I'm a career backup. Like, what can you learn from me? Like, I'm the one trying to learn from you. So I think that was the biggest thing, like, that I took away was like, man, like, this guy is constantly in everything that he does, right? Eat, sleeps, breathe, quarterback, trying to get better, especially in the offseason. So I think that's awesome. Speaking of offseason, you're in Eugene right now. Talk a little bit. Have you been fishing? Because I know like you were the president of your high school fishing club. Have you been fishing up there? Like nerd out about fishing sometime. Have you been on a fishing trip lately? Like tell me some more stuff about fishing.
No, I haven't been recently. It's a little cold right now. I'm sure there's some fishing to be done, but it kind of gets better in the summer, especially down in California as well. So when I head back down there, kind of late April, rolling into June, July, those are the months that you really get after it.
I know nothing about fishing at all.
Yeah. What kind of fishing is your favorite? Because there's a million different ways to fish. My grandfather was the head of the Bassmasters Association in Texarkana, Texas. So yeah.
Okay.
So what is it? A, what is it about fishing you like so much, and what's your favorite kind of fishing?
Yeah, I think it's kind of relaxing. I think it's a true skilled sport where you have to know what you're doing, or you're not going to catch anything. And I would say my favorite type of fishing is probably deep sea fishing. Off the coast of Oregon, you can go catch some big halibut, some salmon, some things like that, and cook them up, and they're pretty tasty too.
Have you ever been tuna fishing before? Like, because I remember I've been deep sea fishing twice, and we caught like I think a bluefin tuna in Cabo or Mexico. Have you ever been? Those things are freaking massive and hard to reel in.
Yeah, and tuna is one of my favorite foods, so it's definitely a fun experience.
Dude,
I eat a lot of tuna out here. Trust me, the ahi poke on the island, chef's kiss good. You were one of the most interesting people in the 2020 draft for me because we did all the research and we're trying to figure all this stuff out, and people had these sort of wild variances about you going into the draft. Your skill set was great, all this, but I remember that people were like, well, does he really like football? Is he gonna leave to be a doctor? Is he too quiet to be a leader? What did you make of all of that stuff for you heading into the draft?
Well, I really didn't listen to much of it. I think I did my best to just go be myself, and especially at the Combine, the Senior Bowl, I had an opportunity to be genuine and to show teams, this is who I am, this is what I'm about. I wouldn't say I'm too quiet. I think I talk too much sometimes. I do love football. That's the only sport that I've ever wanted to play, and I have no plans of becoming a doctor. I don't think I could do that.
You could too. You're so smart. You absolutely could. You have the photogenic memory, bro.
Well, I mean that was a big part of your college curriculum, right?
Yeah, that was kind of a plan of mine, but I'm really thankful football worked out.
Do you remember? So I have your combine results, like testing times. Do you remember? Because obviously combine coming up, there's all this talk about the quarterbacks. I was actually, I know you're like really fast because when you time to use your legs, you're able to get out of the pocket, scramble correctly or like perfectly. Do you remember your 40-yard dash time?
I do.
What was it?
4.68.
Yeah, dude. I saw 4.68 and I'm like, dude, that is moving. I think I ran like a 4.9 in the combine, but it was like ridiculous. All right, do you remember what your vertical jump was? This is insane too.
No, but I think when we compare 40 times, I think my legs might be a little bit longer than yours. So
I knew you were going to say that. I was hoping you or Trey would say that. Oh my gosh. All right, do you remember vertical jump?
34 maybe.
36, dude.
Nice.
Now you shorted yourself. You
bro.
shorted Chase earlier, but you just shorted yourself. Come on.
Undersell.
And then what is your
undersell and over deliver?
Undersell, yes. And then like I have been very outspoken about the combine. Like I think that it is not the best thing to do. Like, I just think it's, other than meeting teams, like, can you tell me a favorite or a horrible combine story of yours? Because I know mine is when they wake you up when you first get there and they make you pee test at 5 a.m. and then keep you up until 9 p.m. and test, and you're warming up, and it's just like, oh, do you have any of those, like, good or bad? Just like, I don't love the combine.
The combine was tough. I think they do a good job of kind of putting athletes in a difficult position. You know, they really test you and they strain you. And I think it's probably a good thing to say, you know, how much can you be on time? Can you handle this load? So I think in terms of that, you know, I think they do a pretty good job. But it is tough. It's definitely tough to wake up that early, to go through all these meetings, to have your brain wired in such a way that you're on all day. But I thought it was really cool to meet all those guys, you know, guys that you've competed against, you've watched them play, and now you get the chance to catch up with them, talk to them about their year, what they do outside of football. So, you know, I thought that experience was really cool when you bring all those guys together and be able to hang out with them.
Did any meetings with staff stick out to you, like that one or two people that, like, because I'm sure you got obviously interviewed by a lot of people, and did you have any idea that the Chargers was going to pick you?
No, I think you just meet with so many teams that they all kind of blend together. My experience with the Chargers, I think I might have messed up a play, and so I walked out of there not feeling so great, where I was like, you know, I'm not going to be a Charger. But thankfully, I think it's one of those plays that I've continued to work on and have gotten better since. So,
well, that's improvement's all anybody's looking for. So with that in mind, and obviously the success you've had, what advice would you give to quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, Drake May, Caleb Williams, as they're about to go through this process? Because it is a daunting thing to go through this process and then begin your career in the NFL. So, you know, everyone loves to draft a quarterback, except when it doesn't work out. And then it's the worst thing in the world. So what advice would you give to these guys that are about to go through the fishbowl process in a way that they probably don't even really understand yet?
Yeah. You know, I'd probably say a couple things. I think put your head down and work, and just fall in love with the process and understand that, you know, it's going to be one of the tougher things that you do in your life. And, you know, the amount of work, whether it comes in the weight room, the film room, out on the practice field, it's not easy. And, you know, I think the second thing would be to just be bulletproof, to be so tough that, you know, you got to lead that team. Everyone's going to look at you as the quarterback. And when things are good, you know, things are good. But when things are bad, you have to be tough. You have to be able to handle the criticism. You have to be able to keep your head up, and keep moving forward, because, you know, the team goes as you do.
Okay, let's we have some fan questions. We've never done this. You're the first person that this is our 25th episode of the podcast.
Yes.
Okay, and we have some fan questions for you. I put it on my Twitter like an hour ago, and there's like 150 questions. We're not going to ask you 150 questions. Okay, so here you go. This is from the Twitter account Shane Goes Pew. Okay, what's his hair product of choice? Is he a pomade guy? Is he just a wake it up and flip it? What are we doing here?
That's a great question. I don't really put a whole lot of gel in there. You know, I've kind of just used the Dr. Squatch stuff that, you know, I think I got the team when you were here.
Yeah. Yes,
so
dude. I got the soap too and the body wash. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're coming out with a whole bunch of new products. So, you know, that was a great opportunity for me to say that.
Yeah. Doctor, I know you guys use that very well. That's awesome.
This is a good one. This is from Jacob Berger. Because I have a feeling about this. He said, ask you, do you think wins and losses are a quarterback stat? Because before you answer, I don't believe they are. I think teams win games, teams win championships. The quarterback can help the team win, but if the players don't block, if the receivers don't catch, then it all falls apart. So I do not believe that wins and losses are a quarterback stat. Do you think wins and losses are a quarterback stat?
I think it's always a reflection of, you know, how well the quarterback plays. I think there are definitely games that the quarterback can affect immensely. And so I think it can kind of be going both ways. Like you said, you know, I think, you know, it is a team sport, but at the same time, the quarterback has a large impact on the game.
Okay, this is from Steer Ghost. Random Twitter handles. I don't get that. All right, so you obviously played at Oregon. You've only played with LA. In my opinion, two of the best uniforms in all of sports you've gotten to wear. What is your favorite uniform combination? And which one do you like putting on the most to feel like you're going to get a W in?
Just the powder blues. The powder blues with the white pants.
Yes.
You know, I think it's classic.
Yes.
The best answer without
It's
question.
definitely my favorite, yeah.
What about at Oregon? Because I know you guys had a ton of different ones. Was there one that stuck out to you? I like the one I think it was like sprayed on paint. It was all white. It was like sprayed on paint. I mean, you guys have had thousands of combos.
Yeah. I would say that we just had chrome helmets my senior year, and whenever we brought the chrome helmets out, I just thought that was the coolest thing. Whatever jersey, it didn't really bother me.
Yeah, dude.
Jerseys are jerseys, but the chrome helmets were pretty cool.
The chrome helmets were fire, and I put the chrome helmets with the powder blues. Then
and the wings.
Then we might really have something. All right, Jason Delgado says, I know that Justin's a big Christopher Nolan fan. What were your thoughts on Oppenheimer?
I thought it was a good movie. I was a little surprised that it was more so about, his backstory, and I thought it was going to be more about the atomic bomb. But you only saw a short clippage of that, so I thought that was cool. But it was a long movie, so I had to stay focused for 3 hours.
My favorite part about Oppenheimer was the way they went back and forth from black and white to color, and the way they used that to set up what they were talking about. I thought that was very cool. Do you have a favorite Christopher Nolan movie?
Yeah, it's always been Interstellar, Inception, or The Prestige.
Yes, The Prestige, dude, is low-key so good.
The Prestige is the one Nolan film that nobody talks about, and it is incredible. It is incredible. And the cast in that movie, oh my God. Absolutely fantastic.
I know, so this is from Griffin Lee, and I know this actually makes sense because I played golf with you. You're an amazing golfer. You hit the ball 400 yards. And first of all, are you back golfing now with your finger stuff? And then what is your dream golf foursome? Like, who would you pick if you could pick anyone in the world to play golf with? Who would you do?
Yeah, I have been cleared to golf. Both my fingers are doing much better now. So I've only played once or twice. Eugene, the weather's not great down here, so I haven't really had the opportunity to. But if I could put together a group of guys, I'd probably go with my dad, my older brother, and my grandpa. He passed away a few years ago, but it'd be cool to get those guys back together.
That's amazing.
Putting the band back together, great answer. Okay, I think this guy might be a Chargers fan. His Twitter handle is Ladanian Gates. So I think this guy's a big Chargers fan. He said, ask him what he would want to add to the team if he was given the choice. If you could add one thing to the team, what would you add?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I'd probably bring Chase Daniel back. You can always back like that in the room.
I was going to say, how about a sauna steam room mix area? Do you guys have those yet?
Yeah, we've got 2 saunas. So that was
they got saunas now.
Yeah, and we've got a new facility coming next year.
Have you got a chance to tour it yet?
I've seen just pictures. I've driven by a couple times, but
it looks insane.
Yeah, Chase. Once they cut your fat contract, they had money for saunas. So
hey man, I made whatever. All right, last one for me, and then everyone knows. Well, most diehard Chargers fans know you love brisket, right? Like, you are a brisket. You love cooking on the Traeger. You invited us out to your golf event in Oregon, and you had the Traeger guys cooking for us. It was awesome. So this is from Sad Juby on Twitter. We need his brisket cooking instructions, and if brisket's not available, what's your go-to meat?
Yeah, brisket. I just followed the Traeger recipe online, so it takes about 12 hours. I think I'd start Traeger at about 180. You get the brisket up to about 160 internal temperature, then you crank it up to 225. You add beef broth, you wrap it back up in tin foil, and you let that go for 7 more hours. So I put it on pretty early in the morning and then wake up, and it should be good to go by dinner time.
And then if brisket's not available, what's your go-to meat? What else do you like?
Ribs. I think ribs are really good.
Yes, dude.
They're pretty
rib
easy.
recipe that you like to follow?
Just the Traeger recipe. I don't go too rogue. I stick to the script and do my best with that.
Justin Herbert, a buy the book guy, is what we're learning. Buy the book. Whatever the book says, that's what we're doing. Listen, we just a couple more, and we'll let you go here. Is there one defender in the league that gives you, or a defensive coach that gives you more issues than anybody else that you've faced so far in your career?
I think there are a lot of really good defenders in our league, especially our division. Anytime you go up against Max Crosby, Chris Jones, Patrick Surtain. It's a really good division. You got those star players that, definitely you have to be aware of on the field. They've done such a good job of impacting the game that, you watch them on film and you just see them make plays all over the place.
Perfect. Is there one corner that has given you more trouble than anybody else in the league?
I think there are quite a few. Like I mentioned, Patrick Surtain, I think he's very impressive. I think Stephon Gilmore is really good as well. We played him a couple times. And you could just go down the list of all these great guys in the league. But, those two come to mind.
All right. Last question, then we'll let you go. The one thing you want to accomplish outside of football, what is it?
Oof. I don't know if I've gotten there yet. I think everything's been so far football right now that I might have to have some more time to answer that question.
The fan base is going to love that one. I'll tell you that. The Charger fan base is going to love that answer. I'll tell you that.
That's awesome.
Hey, Justin, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks for being with us today. Best of luck, and we'll see how this all works out with Jim and the new coaching staff, okay?
You bet. Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks to Justin for jumping on. Kind of interesting, right? I don't think I've ever seen a Justin Herbert interview anywhere, let alone one 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we got a 25-minute interview, and honestly, the football stuff, love what he said, and I think that they're going to in for a big year. I truly do. Yeah. But the most interesting thing to me was all the fan questions and the grilling and stuff, because he's almost like the unicorn in that matter, where he just doesn't talk a lot, and to people give interviews. He talks a ton to me and to his teammates and the people that he trusts and knows. So for him to come on, huge thank you to Justin for doing that. And he texted me after, and he was just like, just so you know, I would not have done that for anyone else but you. I would have told him to get the heck out of here. So we appreciate you, Justin. But yeah, just all the stuff about the fishing. Huge Christopher Nolan fan. Good job on you, because I knew that Interstellar was one of his favorite movies, stuff like that, and just the fan stuff about the hair and the product that he uses and the golfing and stuff. All that's awesome.
Yeah. So, all right. So, with all that being said, what are realistic expectations for the Chargers in the Patrick Mahomes Kansas City Chiefs division that they play in?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think the biggest thing for the Los Angeles Chargers is the fact that they went out and they swung for the fences and landed Jim Harbaugh. Like that to me says it all, because as you heard in the interview, and he's not aware of it, and a lot of guys in the locker room aren't aware of it, they don't know what charging is, okay? Let me just make sure to tell you that the front office, okay, they know and they hear what's happening. Very aware. And they swung for the fences. So bravo to the Spanos for doing that, because I do think that they're one or two pieces away from the coaching side, right? And I think that's the biggest thing that they're going to have. And you heard Justin say it himself. It's like, hey, they're working really hard on what this team will look like getting ready for draft and combine. And like I mentioned, it's the Mike Williams, it's Keenan Allen, it's Joey Bosa, it's Khalil Mack. All those guys have almost $150 million cap hit together. It's wild. Maybe not 150, but it's up there. And that's the biggest thing they got to figure out. Do we want to go cheap? Do we want to go young? Our building blocks are Justin Herbert, Rashawn Slater, Derwin James. Those are the three things that we have right now. We got to figure out the running back situation. We got to shore up the offensive line. We got to get better on defense. So for me, my expectation for them is to compete like hell in the AFC West. They always play the Chiefs difficult. They always give them games, and we always give them games. When I was there, and it was the same way this way. I think with a revamped roster and tools, I think that you should challenge for the division. I don't know if anyone's going to dethrone Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, but make that wild card. Make the playoffs. With the roster you have, depending on how you go, is it a huge fire sale? Is it not? You have to be in the playoffs, and I do think, and this is what people don't realize, I am so excited to watch Justin Herbert in this Harbaugh and Greg Roman offense. I think it's going to be electric. I think he's going to play some of the best ball of his career. I'm really excited to see what happens.
Well, first of all, the Chargers have swung for the fences before. I mean, when they make the trade for Khalil Mack, and they've swung before, and they just haven't connected. So we're hoping this time with Harbaugh that the swing results in the ball going over the fence. Because that's why that label is out there. They try all this stuff, and it just never seems to work. You mentioned Greg Roman, and I think this is interesting because I think Austin Eckler is still a very functional back, but he's just not going to get paid what he wants.
Yeah.
We all know that. But Greg Roman, the new OC in L.A. for the Chargers, had a very interesting comment where he just said, look, Justin's really never had a solid running game. And Austin Eckler has been a touchdown machine, not so much this year, but the past 2 seasons. Like, if you draft Austin Eckler on your fantasy team, you're in the playoffs every year basically just because of Austin Eckler. Yeah. So what do you make of those comments by Greg Roman about Herbert never having a solid running game, and does that tell you that Eckler's probably not going to be a Charger anymore?
I talked to Austin at Super Bowl, and I think he's ready for a fresh start. And not to say that they won't come back to the Chargers, and not to say he won't re-sign for the Chargers, but like you mentioned, the dude in 2021 and 2022 scored 40 total touchdowns. Now, some through air, some through the ground. I mean, 20 touchdowns a year through 2 years, and he was been hurt, and they didn't use him as much this year. I get that. The dude still has 2 or 3 years left, I think, in his prime, because he's an absolute beast in the weight room. Like I'm telling you, like
his workouts are legendary. His workouts are legendary. Yeah.
Yes, but I don't think that Greg Roman meant any harm by that. What I do think is that I think they're going to try to build it more, maybe not by one star back, right? Like not pay some back. They want this running back by committee. They want to be able to run between the tackles, and Austin was able to do that. But I think where Austin made a lot of his hay were some of these outside zone plays where he's just going to the edge. He's running duo. They're out of the backfield catching balls and stuff like that. And I think that's great. But you look at Greg Roman and you look at Harbaugh offensively, they want to run the football. Okay, and nothing better for a quarterback than a run game. And I think that's probably what he meant by that. But I do think maybe Eckler and some people in his camp may have taken it as like, oh, that's sort of a shot at me. Like, where are these 40 touchdowns you're talking about? Like, what are you talking about? We don't run the ball. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go separate ways.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that one shakes out, because he's been such a fixture of that offense for the last few years. You mentioned all the players that they have with the cap money, right? Bosa, Mike Williams, Mack, maybe even Keenan. I don't think Keenan's going anywhere, but
you can't.
They're probably going to have. They're going to have to let somebody go, right? Yeah. They're going to have to let somebody go. So in your mind, who do you think is most likely to be trimmed up from those players?
I think that Khalil Mack, even though career, I think he's probably going to get traded. Like, there's a ton of interest in the trade market for Khalil Mack. I think Joey Bosa, he's been hurt on and off when I was there. If you can somehow make that contract work, like, I still think he is an elite pass rusher in this league. I really do. And then with the Mike Williams thing, like, I think he's great, but I think the injury issue, his knee's a little messed up. Still, obviously hurt a couple years ago with his back, all that stuff. Like, if I had to pick two to keep, it'd be Keenan Allen and Joey Bosa. Now, will they keep two? I don't know. Like, I just think of all of them, I don't know who you're going to cut, but I do think Keenan Allen is the piece that you have to keep from the slot, from an X receiver outside, a Z receiver outside, anywhere you move him. Like, I know how Herbert, and he said it, how Herbert feels about Keenan and how Keenan feels about Herbert. It's a perfect match. You cannot just start over. And look, they're drafting 5. There's some receivers. This receiver draft, the top 3, okay, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, and the guy from Washington, Rome, like, they are legit number 1 receivers. Are you going to pick a receiver at 5? I think you sort of have to. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they pick Joe Alt and put him at right tackle, right? Like, all this stuff that comes out in Notre Dame, he's just a stalwart. So you have both edges set. So it's going to be interesting to see how Harbaugh and this new regime draft and go about building this roster. We're going to hear a lot about it at the Combine in the next couple months or weeks in free agency and the draft too.
Yeah, you mentioned the Combine, and you mentioned it in the interview with Justin that it's not your favorite thing in the world. What is it that you don't like about the Combine? And you can't say everything.
Yeah, everything. No, I mean, everything. I think the only thing, let me just start with the only thing that I do like about the Combine is these prospects able to meet in person with regimes of teams. That's the only thing I like. I think running out onto the field, testing in just your underwear, everyone's shirts off, and you just got grown men walking around in underwear training. Like, you think that your draft position is going to improve based on workouts that you do? Like, I think pro days are way better. Now, I will say, and we talked about it before, and I'm going to give you the credit, I do think for the smaller school prospects, right? Yeah. I do think it's a big deal for them because they're getting in front of these teams. But when you're the top prospects, when you're the top 100, 120 prospects, it can, like, that's why you're hearing, like, Caleb Williams is not throwing. Marvin Harrison Jr. is not doing a thing. No workout-wise at all. Jaden Daniels is not throwing. I get it. I don't, like, it's just, like Justin even said, it's more of a mental thing where you're waking you up early. They're parading you down to rooms, and you're having to remember plays, and you have 15 minutes with this team, but then you're meeting in the train room for 5 minutes with OCs. It's just like round robin. It's just like I don't love that, because I don't think that unless you're like an undrafted guy and just like run a 4.3 40, which there's guys like that. And look, I'm covering the NFL Combine for 4 straight days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for NFL Network. And I'm excited to dig into it because I want to learn more about these new prospects. But just the fact of the matter is, I think it's more so for GMs and agents that do the legal tampering period or whatever the heck it is for building free agency. I think that's a big deal.
Listen, the two most important things at the Combine are the things we never see. And it's the interviews with the players, and it's the medical stuff. It's the medical stuff. Those are the two biggest things for most players at the Combine. And to your point, and I'm glad you did give me the credit, there are 2 levels to this, right? If you're a star player, you have to understand the whole process. Once your college season ends, whether it's in a regular season, bowl game, playoffs, whatever, once your college season ends and you declare for the draft, this is a make your value grow period for players. Yeah. The whole thing is to increase your value in the draft. So as a player, you have to protect that. So for a lot of these guys, there is no upside to doing a lot of this stuff. There is a downside. I've seen top prospects blow out their Achilles on a pro day. 100%. In a pro day, and it cost them. Sidney Jones, a corner out of Washington a few years ago, that cost him tens of millions of dollars. Ajabu out of Michigan a couple of years ago that the Ravens got tore his leg up on a pro day drill. Like, you have to protect your investment. So this whole process leading up to the draft and free agent signings after the draft it's the players and their representatives' responsibility to increase their value. Meanwhile, the teams are trying to decrease their value so they can get it's true. So they can get a player at a lower draft position than they don't have to. Exactly. So they don't have to pay him as much to get his services. So understand that process, okay? Yep. Underneath all of the underwear Olympics and all the stuff and the running and the stretching and the jumping, that's what it is. It is literally about the players trying to increase their value, and on some level, at times, teams trying to decrease that player's value so they can get them at a later slot. That's the whole process. Yeah. And if you don't understand that about the process, you have missed the entire point.
Totally. And I think if I had to rank like where Combine fits though in that process, like there's multiple ways, and I want to make sure the listeners understand. Like, you look at all-star game practices. For me, that is the number one thing for the East-West Shrine or the Senior Bowl. Those practices, even more so than the game, where these NFL coaches are actually coaching these prospects and players. And you see it more times than not, these OCs and these defensive coordinators in these all-star games, they end up drafting guys that they had and they coached because they were able to get their hands on them for 4 or 5 practices. Okay, then you look at private workouts. I think private workouts are the number one thing that make all the difference in the world, because you're able to get out there, put boots on the ground, make sure you work them out, and then pro days, and then Combine to me would be last, other than the injury standpoint and everything that you were saying.
But the small school guys, like the Cooper Kupps of the world, the Quentin Miners of the world, they can shine at the Combine. Top prospects have to look at it completely differently. Yeah. All right, my man, go delve into the Combine for the next 4 days, and we'll chat about it next week, I'm sure. All right?
All right, sounds good, buddy.